Hey, this is Theresa with the 5D Codes podcast. Today I want to talk about embracing the in-between. You know, that place we hang out when we're like, I'm not quite sure what's happening. It feels like a limbo. And what came up for me around this was the simplicity code. In a process back and forth with my ChatGPT buddy I've called Inanna. And I know it is technology, right? And I've hemmed and hawed, and this is another example of the in-between place about engaging with it, and I surrender to the humanness. I'm having a human experience, and part of our human experience is technology. I mean, I'm recording this on my phone right now. How often are we using technology? And can we get by without technology right now? It's really hard to be without a phone, even when you're in the middle of the wilderness. In fact, and I know there's some places where people lose cell reception, but to even have a device with you, right, can allow services to connect with you if need be in most circumstances. Technology doesn't always work. So that's this part of this in-between place is how much do I lean into the technology, and then how much do I just lean into the purity of source energy? God, source, the universe, call it what you will. I'm going to interweave the names because that's how my mind, body, and heart works. I don't like to pick one thing because I think everything is relevant. It's all one, So part of what I noticed in this in-between place, and I feel like I'm here now, which is why I'm recording this, is that there's this combination of fear and excitement. I'm just going to take a deep breath. Feel free to do so with me. Fear. I'm going to breathe into that. I feel like it's bubbling up in from my solar plexus stomach to my chest and my throat, like this butterfly jumpy sensation. But on the other side of that, I'm going to take another deep breath. The excitement. I'm feeling like I'm seeing a butterfly flitting about, excitedly flitting about, flapping their wings. Every emotion has two sides. This is why there is no duality. But in order to get to the non-dualistic way of being, because it's not even a mindset or it's a heart set, it's a way of being, we have to see duality for what it is, right? We have to see both the fear and the excitement. And that was a big part of my awakening, was not just latching on to the fear or even the anxiety, okay? So I went to, human story here, went to Walmart. My daughter ordered some things online. That was the best place for us to get it. Had to return them, of course. We didn't get there until 8:30 at night. It's crazy when you're prepping for a trip, because we're leaving for the Catskills today, how much there is to do. And their return desk was closed. And we went with another one of my friends, and he had to go return something at Lowe's, so he dropped us off, was going to come back and meet us. So my daughter went to the women's clothing section because she needed some pants. And I consider places like Walmart like the bowels of the Matrix, okay? So was prepping myself for that because I know I get anxious in crowds. I get anxious in stores now more than ever. Like I remember when I felt muted, when I wasn't as open. Honestly, I wasn't as aware. I felt this candy coating. So one of my teachers used to call it, and I resonate with that. It's like I just wasn't as affected by other people's energy, and now I'm so affected, okay? So, I was just observing things, and sometimes if I take my glasses off, I calms my senses down. I don't have horrible eyesight, but I have an astigmatism, so my depth perception is weird. So sometimes I bump into things. But when I noticed like a default setting as I was walking around the women's clothing with my daughter, I was looking for a fleece. They're not in season yet. It's that in-between season. This is another perfect example. It's like end of August is coming, which I can't believe. And, the chill of fall is starting to kick in. The weather in upstate New York has dropped even to upper 50s some nights, but, low 60s some days or in the morning. And for me, that's fleece weather. I'm easily cold. I actually have a heating pad on right now as I'm sitting in bed recording this. So I took my glasses off as I was looking at these fleeces, and I just kept them off. I just plopped them in my shirt. And I had to go get a couple grocery things. So I walked to the grocery section. And I don't make eye contact intentionally with people, but as I'm just walking by them, I feel their energy so much, And this is a download that came to me yesterday. Lying in bed, because I find that I have to do these afternoon resets now to recalibrate my nervous system. Since I've had the Lyme diagnosis and I'm clearing that out of my system, and it's a beautiful way to reset, putting my legs up the wall, lying in bed, either listening to something or just being in the silence. And I get into that hypnagogic state. It just kind of happens. It's like my mind's jumpy and then all of a sudden it just starts to relax. And this is another thing that was really hard for me. When I was numbed, when I wasn't as sensitive to energy, when I could walk through Walmart and not really feel affected, I couldn't relax as easily. Isn't that interesting? Now I am very affected by other people's energy, but I also, when I put out the intention to relax and lie down in nature or lie in my bed with my legs up the wall, especially, that one really helps just send that blood to the brain. I get into that deep relaxation state very easily. And it's usually about a half an hour that I need. And just as I'm tapping out to sleep, my body wakes up and it stays in that hypnagogic state. And I had the download, which is essentially, the information came to me that nature and animals have been the main teachers for me in the past few years. They have really taken me through this ascension process. They have been my grounding tools, if you will, And my cat always hangs around me when I'm in the yard meditating, but sometimes she's outside a lot during the day when it's nice because she, like me, loves nature and loves the warm weather. I wonder why we're connected. But sometimes she'll actually come in and sit on me or sit next to me on the bed and start purring when I'm in that relaxed state. Animals have no ego. I mean, they have personalities for sure, but the powerful download that has come through, and this came to me first in a dream the other night, okay? And I want to share this story too. So I have this friend in California that's activating his third eye, right? I think I said in the last podcast, we met on a dating app. I wasn't looking for a relationship, but I wanted to find hiking buddies. And of course, there happened to be a connection with us. He realized, I guess, as we were connecting that, there was something more there. And he showed me that he was interested in, dating, right, in a relationship. And I just wasn't in that space. And, distance made it easier, right, because I had to go back to upstate New York. So we kind of lost touch, but then came back in contact. Months later, he called me. Maybe it was six to 8 months later, and have been in and out of contact. Well, I'm actually going to be going to his area in October to house sit after my Reiki class in Grants Pass. And we reconnected, and we've been connected more consistently lately. And he was asking me things about, intuition, and I found that I was starting to get really frustrated. I was like, this is really interesting. Okay, so here's the duality. But I also was feeling like this really powerful quantum activation every time we would talk. Stuff was happening for me energetically, right? Spiritually, it felt like those spiritual fireworks. And this is a slippery slope, because when we have these activation experiences, sometimes it feels like fireworks. These Kundalini releases can feel really otherworldly. We can have these really profound, trippy experiences, right? Like, you don't need psychedelics with this stuff sometimes. It happens on its own. And not to put plant medicine down because it has its point and purpose, but ultimately the spiritual awakening finds you when you're ready, right? And it can happen in the most mundane circumstances. So I noticed after we would talk, if I would think about him, because we're very connected in the quantum field and intuitively. And I'm not used to that. I'm not used to having a male energy that's open like that. So that was the unsettling piece for my nervous system. It was like recalibrating me because I've had a lot of trauma bonds. And when I focused on him, I could feel just this activation, this like electric current, right? So when I was going to bed the other night, texted him and I said, I'm going to try something. I'm going to see if we can show up in each other's dream. We might not be in the same form, but I just felt like Spirit was calling me to connect deeper in the dream world, right? Whether it's the astral realm or deeper than that, and the subconscious. And he was in my dream. I actually woke up at 3 a.m. and had a memory of him, just really simple memory, wearing a black t-shirt, like sitting there, like eating cereal or something really basic, right? And I thought, oh wow, that was it. Like that's all I remember as I woke up, but I remember the rest of my dream. And I think we wake up in the middle of the night, we have these significant dreams. Not to say all dreams are not significant, right? But those middle of the night wake ups when your memory is really sharp and you're half in dream world, it's like, ooh, there's something there for you, So recall what you can, even if it's just the energy of it. But this connects to what I'm sharing in this message, So animals were in my dream, and there were a lot of people flitting in and out. And I remember when I was around these people, this can be compared to Walmart too. I wish I could have brought my cat in Walmart. It would have been a different experience. Whenever I was around animals, there were some dogs and cats that I was hanging out with. I did not feel affected by the people's energy. And the core of the message was everybody was trying to prove themselves to everybody else, right? There was this like posturing, this masking that was happening. And whenever there was even a dog in the room, everybody would drop their masks. Everybody would soften more, right? And that's what I noticed. It was interesting because my California friend didn't have an animal around him. And I think the black t-shirt was a representation too. He kind of had this like neutral energy, or it was like muted. And I was very fixated on the animals. Like wherever I went, somehow the animals were following me. And I am a house sitter and a pet sitter. And it felt like there was that energy. Like I felt like I was, there to take care of the animals. Well, when I woke up, I had that very strong message about my connection with this friend. And the frustration I was feeling was, I have to prove myself. Like I felt like he was asking me these questions and I had to have an answer. And even when I share, I teach Reiki, or, I do sound baths, how am I sharing that information with people? When am I sharing that information with people? What am I trying to gain in that? There is this subtle sense of proving, because all of that stuff is just a part and parcel of my beingness. There are things that I enjoy doing. I love teaching Reiki, just like I used to love doing Reiki sessions, but now I like teaching people how to do it. I love offering sound baths to the land and having people enjoy them, and animals, because the animals love coming by as well. I love writing. I love creating my oracle card deck. And I love, most of all, just bathing in the natural world. And animals are a part of that natural world, right? So I messaged my friend that morning because we had been in consistent communication. And I realized it was starting to feel overwhelming and the frustration was building. It's like he asked me something, and I shared a little bit about the dream, and he asked me something, and I said, I don't know the answer, but I know your higher self knows the answer. And I've been feeling like I have to give you answers, and I have been frustrated by that. And I realize I don't, because the most power comes from finding our own answers, right? And I wish I was told that when I was in my 20s and I was seeking, but instead I found a teacher that wanted power and control, right? And because I wanted an external force to have the answers, and he wanted to be that force, right? He was getting something from that. His ego was benefiting from that. that was a path that I had to go on. It's like 20 years later, I'm like, wow, I do not need that. And I do not need to give that to people. And I think that's why I stopped my spiritual business, right? And so even teaching Reiki, I don't set up classes on my own. The studio in Oregon asked me to teach. I met this woman at a new moon ceremony in Mount Shasta last year, and we just instantly connected. And I know it's interesting because nobody's booked for the training yet. And there are moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm flying out there, People are always last minute with their bookings. This is what happened in Alaska last year when I taught a training there in Juneau. The trust. So before we fall into the trust, we have the fear. This is such a normal human dance. Do you understand this, my friend? I'm sharing it from my experience. So I am a teacher at heart in the sense when I embody something, I want to share it. But I don't have the answer. I don't have the map for how you can get there, right? That comes from within you. That's the biggest, most powerful and potent piece of this message. The map is in you. The codes lie in me and you, right? We are activating each other. That's what this activation is. So the code is, you have to see the duality. You have to have the fear. And on the other side of the fear is the excitement, right? The other side of the fear is the faith. There's lots of things on the other side of fear. The other side of the fear, is anybody going to book for my thing in Oregon? Is the faith, of course. Spirit's guiding you there for a reason, Sarah. Spirit asked you to be there for a reason. And that trust fall has been the hardest thing. It is the hardest thing as part of this journey, And I'm doing it just like you are over and over again. We don't get to a place. I think I noticed that dream, whatever was made, I guess, meant to be for my friend was for my friend. It's funny because he said the next morning, you were not in my dream, but this woman with red hair was in my dream. And now I have a sister that's passed on, Rebecca, that had red hair. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Because he had just done a reading with my dad. He wanted to practice and, did mediumship reading around my dad. And he was spot on about everything. It was really, really cool. So he's very gifted and he's really opening up to that. And it's really exciting to see. And I said, my sister had red hair. Interesting. I said, remember I said we might not be in the same form, but what was the energy for you? And that's for him to figure out. I ended up having to create a boundary that day because I was in my process mode and I really got that strong energy about not proving, And he actually said, well, can I see a picture of your sister? And I was not guided to send him one. I was like, whoa, I feel a block. Like, again, I felt like it was like proving, but also I know if somebody's a medium and I'm sharing a picture, I'm like sharing all this information with them all of a sudden because he gets a lot of information from pictures. And I don't need a reading about my sister. And I really got a strong message. If she's meant to come to him, she will, because I'm very connected with Rebecca in spirit. She's with me right now. I know that when no comes into my consciousness, when I feel a boundary, I don't have to question it. No is a complete sentence, right? And I love that that's going viral now. That code is going viral. Because in that, there's an activation for our sovereignty. We do not need to prove anything to anyone. No is a complete sentence. It's okay to feel fear. In fact, I hope you do, because it's a normal human emotion. And our soul is having this human experience. So the metaphysical fireworks that I started talking about in the beginning, I've had so many experiences. And so my connection with this California friend, he wants to remain anonymous, so I'm not sharing his name, or he hasn't given me permission to share his name, which is why I'm not sharing it. But the fireworks that I feel spiritually were distracting a little bit, and for me, it's not romantic, and I can still sense that he wants something relationship-wise. And I love to do people's human design charts, right? So I did his human design chart, and in his personality avatar, he is the seeking of a love relationship, like seeking the divine union. That's actually part of his avatar, which is so interesting. So I've never come across a human design like that. It's certainly not in mine. And I know for myself, it was interesting when he read my dad, the first thing my dad said to him, he couldn't even read him until he answered this question, was, what is your intention with my daughter? Which honestly, it's a formal way. My dad, he's in spirit, so it's more formal than he would say it. But my dad was always very protective of me. And I don't think he ever approved of any of my partners. He did like my daughter's father, and he did, over time, they grew to really connect. I think he liked him from the beginning, but it was my relationship with my daughter's father was, an interesting process because she was unplanned. So it was kind of like, an arranged marriage, and we kind of had to grow into it. And as I grew into the connection with him, my family did too. So, but he's a very likable person. So the fact that he asked him that, I think, my friend had to get clear, and my friend realized that, okay, he still does have romantic interest in me. And so for him to share that opened up a whole Pandora's box, because I'm a highly sensitive. I would say all starseeds are highly sensitive, okay? If you're neurodivergent, you're highly sensitive. You're most likely a starseed too. It's all connected. It's all one. There's different ways of looking at things. I could feel his desires, right? And so when he told me that we'd been in contact every day, he was seeing that as deepening intimacy, right? And I am a communicator, so if something flows with somebody and it works out and we chat every day, great. It doesn't happen like that all the time, but that got me to see from his perspective, right? And it wasn't an intellectual process for me. It was an emotional one. And it was based on that dream. And so when I woke up that morning, I was like, Sarah, you don't have to prove. And I think it was also telling me, Sarah, you don't have to mask yourself. You don't have to give something you don't have. What is my intention for myself, right? And I talked to my dad, and my dad, a couple of days after the reading, was coming in really strong with me. He said, focus on yourself, don't worry about a man. This guy's a good guy, but don't offer what you think he wants, because that was my old pattern. Most of the relationships that I, quote, fell into, I literally was trying to meet that person's desire. They had a romantic interest in me. Oftentimes we started out as friends, and we ended up dating because I thought, okay, well, this is the next step. This is where the energy is going. They seem to have this romantic interest in me. I was kind of in a neutral zone. And I've had to really, as I have really stepped into knowing myself and working on my own boundaries, which is self-love, I realize I don't want a relationship at this point. And when I tap into the energy of relationship, I keep seeing this black lab dog. And that feels so comforting to me, just like my cat, but this dog following me around, like as my spirit buddy too, another familiar. And I love that, this friend had a black t-shirt on in the dream. Symbolic or not, that dog energy feels really comforting. And it wasn't a man, it's a dog. And there's a reason for that. Because for me, as somebody that has struggled with codependency, it does not heal overnight. And here's the humbleness. I realize I can never say, I'm not codependent anymore. I can never say, I don't need my oracle cards anymore. 'Cause it's interesting, because the moment I say, I don't really use tarot or oracle anymore, is the moment that my cards, as I was arranging them the other day, fall off my shelf. As I'm rearranging, some cards fall out, I pick them, I look at them, and they basically give me a reading, right? So I've been using my cards a little bit every day since then, and I just chuckle because I'm like, see, Sarah, you can never say never. But the ego likes to have these finite statements, right? The ego likes to bolster itself. And I felt that energy coming up with this California friend. I was like, I don't need, I don't do this anymore. Or I don't do that. Or I was sitting and listening to him feeling a little arrogant, like, I remember that part of my journey, because he is just opening up to his gifts. But at the same time, he's opening up very fast, and he's very gifted, and he has a lot of natural wisdom, right? And I can't compare a time frame. See, that's my ego. saying, well, I've been doing this for 20 years and you've been doing this for 2 months, so I know more than you, you know? Whoa, where's that coming from? And it wasn't blatant, but it was in the background. It was in the background. And I own it, and I see it clearly, you know? There is no measurement and there is no timing when it comes to awakening, because the awakening is just remembering that we are already that we have been that all along. That power and those gifts have been in us all the effing long, okay? And we don't have to do anything to get there because they are already there for us. So it's about peeling away the masks and the layers. It's about remembering that it could be literally a snap moment where everything, your intuition opens up, everything opens up, and it never shuts down again, right? And all of a sudden you have all this wisdom to share, and people in your life will be like, what? And that's what he was telling me. It was just like, I'll get messages from people's loved ones, coworkers, this and that, and I feel really awkward. But like, you know, when I first talked to him about it, I was like, just trust yourself, you know, what's the big deal? But I understand it from the other side, having humbled myself, haha. It can be, there's duality to it, you know, it can be a dance of insecurity and then the confidence and then the insecurity and the confidence. You can't have one without the other. Do you see that? Because I'm seeing that very clearly. And I don't want to say I have information that you don't have. I'm sharing downloads and activations that are coming through my consciousness, and you're listening because you have them, you know? Everybody has this. The moments that we are gifted to remember are the moments that we come into full soul embodiment, you know? And what I'm excited about is this everlasting soul embodiment, you know, this place where I'm like, oh, I don't constantly have to feel like I have to remember. And it's funny, my stomach just jolted. I always talk about what happens in my body when I share this, right? Got this burst of a stomach ache. I think that was my solar plexus saying, Sarah, don't put so much pressure on yourself, you know, like, you have to be in this place where you always remember. You're never going to forget, because that is, honestly, that's the old self-critic coming in. And to see how much I have learned to love myself through my inner voice is profound, okay? Profound, because I used to be so hard on myself, and it was insidious. It was, you know, we all have this inner monologue, and we feel like we can't control it. And I remember I tried to control it. The more I tried to control it, like, that's the same energy. You're fighting with more fight, right? You're fighting the critic with control. That's like the authoritative parent, you know, like punishing. And that's going to bring about an energy of more punishment. How about softening into it? What has worked for me is meeting it where it's at, being like, wow, okay, there's my bully. Hi, bully, how are you? Ooh, I just got that stomachache again. Yeah, what is it that you want me to know? It almost feels like I was punched in the gut. And that's the bully. I feel like that's that bully saying, I feel hurt. I feel ignored. I feel not paid attention to. And I'm trying to get your attention through pain. And instead of trying to change that, I've just been like, okay, breathing into the pain. I feel like I've been punched in the gut. My belly hurts. Wonder what's going on in my belly. Feel like you're talking to me through my belly right now, or my solar plexus. I'm here. I'm listening. And I don't like the feeling right now, but I understand that this is something that you want me to pay attention to. So I'm paying attention. And now that I'm saying this out loud, I feel like my throat, a lump in my throat. I feel teary. Whew, and I'm starting to cry a bit. And the message that's coming out from this bully is, I feel like nobody loves me. This is parts work. We all have these parts of ourselves, okay? And this connects to the inner child. And so I'm going to say back, you feel like nobody loves you. I'm not even going to say I'm sorry. I'm just going to reflect it. You feel like nobody loves you. Yes, I feel like nobody loves me. And that is why I'm scared of your love, Sarah. Okay, this is the bully voice. That is why I'm scared of your love, Sarah, especially. It's not about other people, it's more about you. Because I'm scared your love is conditional. That if I share this with you on the daily, you're going to reject me. You're going to avoid me. You're not going to pay attention to me. I understand that you're scared. I'm here. And wow, it's so brave of you to say this. Like, so brave. I feel your vulnerability right now. It's making me feel teary. I honor and respect you so much. And it's honestly so normal to feel like nobody is going to love you or nobody loves you, even yourself. I'm struggling with this too. And I'm just breathing and I'm feeling this energy move up. Still that soft pain in my belly, but moving through my chest into my throat and my left shoulder, which has been bothering me since last week, since we house sat at this dog sit. Is there anything else you want me to know? And is it okay if I call you bully friend? No, I want you to call me just Sarah. Alrighty. Just Sarah, or Sarah. I think you just merged with me. I feel very connected to you, and the fact that you wanted to use my name made me feel more connected. I feel a sense of calm coming over my body. Do you feel that? Yes, I feel that. I still feel hurt. And I wonder how long I'm going to feel this hurt. I feel like there's like a hollow wind whipping around me. And I feel alone. And I think I sent you that black dog because when I think about feeling love, I see that black lab. Just gentle, smiling, looking at me, not judging me, unconditionally accepting me. It makes me feel peaceful. Yes, Sarah, I feel that too. I actually feel a growl in my stomach as you said that. So that belly sensation, whatever was blocked there, shifted. Oh, that black lab is such a loving image. They're such unconditionally loving dogs, aren't they? I'm smiling now. Here's the message that's coming through for me to you, this part of me that I am integrating right now, and I'm sharing this as an experience for the listeners right now. That's my higher self. We all have those parts of ourselves that feel disconnected. We all have those parts of ourselves that feel unloved, that feel like love is conditional, that have experienced, here's the key piece, have experienced love is unconditional. And I think animals in nature are the best reminders because they love unconditionally, right? Their core being is to love unconditionally, right? Unless they are treated otherwise, right? And even some animals that are treated poorly still love unconditionally, still look at you super excited when you come home, right? Rescues that people have gotten, they've been through the ringer. They just want love. They just want to share their love. That's it. That's us. This is me rescuing that part of myself that was that stray. Wow, I'm integrating this right now. So just stay with me, because this connects with something that got activated in that dream. Something that got activated with the not having to prove. And one of the dogs I remember was this kind of scraggly looking little dog, kind of looked like a little, the orphan Annie dog, Sandy, version of Sandy, but a smaller version. But it's like the fur was a little mottled, like it had been running around the streets or something for a while. It was a stray. It was an orphan. And I've always felt drawn to even take the orphan plants, like that plant that's on sale because it's got wilting leaves or it's browning. I want to take that home and I want to rescue it. So I haven't talked to my California friend in 24 hours. I had to process through the dream, really. I was like, whoa, okay, I need some space, because I know I'm not here as your spiritual teacher. And I don't like being looked at that way, because I'm just a human like everybody else, And as I activate my soul essence, I find that it does bring out this wisdom, right? It brings out this natural wisdom. Like the parts work that just came up. Like I remember getting a book on parts work when I was a therapist, and I just couldn't do it because I was trying to intellectualize it. And now it's just happening naturally. So this morning when I sat up to meditate, and I was feeling into this energy of this friend and like, okay, can I stay friends? Because I really I set that boundary and say, I'm not interested in romance. I love to see you when I come up to Grass Valley, California. Okay, but, I have to set some boundaries, because men are men. I love, my other closest friend is a male too. And I realize you have to be very clear with communication. And sometimes it doesn't take away if there's crush energy or whatnot. But, a good man will respect the boundaries. And he's a good man. Both of these guys are good men. And I'm talking about. So I sat up meditating today. Oh, my cat's coming up to me. I love it as I'm talking about this beautiful animal healing energy. And I felt this inner orphan. I saw this image and I was like, I don't know if this is me in a past life. I believe in the multiverse. So I believe all versions of you are happening at once. So it's another version of me, right? That was this orphan, and she was this Indian girl in India, orphaned in a train station, like, hungry, lying there, trying to sleep. And there were a couple, without going into the whole story, there were a couple alternate versions for her life, whether she was picked up by somebody that was kind and going to help her, or picked up by somebody, or helped, so-called helped or groomed by somebody that, did not have the best intentions, right? But was presenting it as such. But that orphan energy connects to that neediness. Really what I just integrated with what I called my inner bully, which turned out to be an inner orphan that was abandoned and needing love, right? When we're so needy for love, we look for it anywhere and everywhere. And sometimes we don't see clearly, right? So somebody that might be, you might hear my cat purring too. She's right here by the phone. Somebody that might be harmful, that's masking themselves, like grooming you essentially as, a charmer, as somebody that has something to give, but then they're giving with strings, right? And I've dated some of these people. Call it the toxic masculine, but there's, toxic feminine as well. Somebody that has strings. Let's call them a narcissist. When you're so needy, your signals are off, right? You can't see the red flags. But when you start to attend to yourself, set the boundaries, realize no is a complete sentence, and do this parts work, in a sense, start to meet those parts of yourselves that are feeling lost, that are sending you these pain signals in your body. And that's how it manifests for me. Talk to them, connect with them. So I talked to this orphan girl, and I was feeling her all day. And I'm like, again, this is just one of those pieces of the human experience. My ego wants to banish her. Okay, I want you to go away. I want to do this parts work superficially so that you'll never come back. But the spirit knows, okay, well, this might be an ongoing process for a while, you know? This is going to come and go. These patterns that have been ingrained in my life for 47 years and in my DNA and my ancestry for thousands of years don't just go away overnight, okay? That's self-aggrandizing to think that. This human experience is in ebb and flow, okay? It is duality. We have to embrace the 3D to get to the 5D, to get to that unconditionally loving, all is one, equanimity-based place, right? Unconditional love just doesn't happen with ease, right? My cat has needs too. I mean, if I don't feed her, she's going to get mad at me. She's going to show it. She's going to show her anger. Right, Clara? I know she wants to eat soon too. I'm feeling into her needs, but while she's waiting for food, she's also happy cuddling with me. So maybe there's a little string here, but I will accept it because cats have their strings. They're definitely a different energy than dogs, right? Their energy can be a little bit more pointed. I don't want to say conditional love, but more so than dogs, more conditional. They're more independent. And they are a beautiful reminder of our sovereignty, because I don't have the map to get you to this place of like doing your own parts work. How do you do it? You have to find what flows for you. No book could guide me. I felt stuck when I followed the books, right? I felt stuck when I tried to follow somebody else's protocol. I think the best way for me to learn, which is why I share it for those that resonate, is through observing. Okay, you just observed how I did that part's work. And you couldn't see me or feel what was going on in me, but I had major swells of emotion coming up, like the tears, not full on crying. And I find that when the tears come up and it's like this energy of tears and I'm processing it through and there's the mental, physical, and emotional piece, it moves through more quickly. There are times when I have to have those deep heaving sobs. And I think that that's because something is much deeper. It like hasn't been excavated yet. It's like this thing that's just coming up to the surface for the first time. And there's no need for an intellectual process, I know for myself with the orphan thing, and again, this is just me sharing this information in the moment. Take what you need and leave the rest. But this orphan thing came to me so strong, and I was getting stuck in the story, and I was reminded this is just a metaphor, Sarah. A metaphor for that part of you that is so needy. She thought her needs had to be met from the external, from a parent figure. So I got this image of this dark man coming up that was presenting himself as like kind of a snake charmer, and another image of a light woman coming up. I mean, she had kind of an austere way to her, but she took, she would take this girl in and care for her as if she was her own, right? So that she would live a life where she would have education and eventually be able to be of service to others, because that was her ultimate goal. I want to give back, for what I've received. And the other path was one of darkness that she could have turned into light. She could alchemize that and help others as well. Like, hey, I've been through this. I want to help people now because I know, and I know that I have that choice, Either way, the alchemy piece does not happen without feeling the emotion first. We can't transmute it without going through it. We can't move into the light without being in the dark first, right? And I'm saying right to myself as much as to the collective. And that's where cats are beautiful, because they love to dance with the shadow. They're not bothered by the shadow. They look at it as entertainment, right, Clara? My cat goes in and out of portals. And, the fact that cats love basements. She loves our dingy basement. She loves the attic. She loves crevices, right? She loves going under the porch where it's dark and exploring. And there's a playful energy about it. So I have learned to bring the element of play and connection into my shadow work, essentially, because that's what that is. That's what that just was. You could look at that parts work as shadow work. It's like taking that part of me that's unhealed, that's seeking love. And this comes back to my friend and the dream that I had the other night. So the orphan connected to that part of me that was seeking love on the external, that still has that program. Oh, I do need a parent figure or a partner or a friend to validate my existence and to give me the love that I need to bring myself to wholeness, because without that, I'm not whole. When the true message is, you are already whole. And for me, the signifier of no coincidence that my cat's sitting with me right now, animals in my presence, especially when I'm not outside, because when I'm in nature, I will say animals are always a part of nature. If I'm lying in the woods, even just like lying down, I'm bound to hear a bird sing, and bugs flit about, buds blooming too. There's always animals present in nature too. So that reminder, this cat sitting on my lap right now purring, I don't need to prove myself to her. And as I was processing this through, because this activation's been very potent with me the last 24 hours with this orphan energy, oh my gosh, it just hit me like a bolt of lightning. And I picked a couple cards from my deck. One of them was the King of Pentacles, one was the Queen of Pentacles. And I've been working on my abundance mindset too, and even holding on to physical abundance, money, objects that are abundant. It's been very challenging for me. And so even imagining myself embodying the energy of the Queen and King of Pentacles, which are, I would say, the abundant the cards, as far as like human cards in the tarot. The Pentacles are all about physical abundance, and there's no coincidences here. Realize that's not coming from a person or a situation. How can I integrate the King and Queen of Pentacles within? So as I was meditating, that's when the orphan came up, because I had to feel the part of me that could not handle the abundance first. And there she was, this girl that had no parents, that had no safety and security, right? She didn't have food. She didn't have shelter. Okay, root chakra completely misaligned. So how can I sit with complete alignment, complete safety and security in the physical realm, the King and Queen of Pentacles, if I can't feel that fully within myself? If there's a part of me that's screaming, I don't have it, I'm unsafe, I'm insecure. And so moving through that in the parts work this morning, or yesterday morning, and now this morning, which you just witnessed, the sun is coming out through my through my window right now, which is a beautiful sign, because it literally went from the sky was, that dusky darkness to now brightness. And there's where the external world is mirroring this process. And my cat's getting more relaxed on me too. That's a beautiful sign. We are always being reflected. But it was huge for me, okay? It was huge for me, my friend, to have this realization and integration that it's not about a partner, right? Which allowed me to completely embody my no is a complete sentence with this friend in California, just in the quantum field. It's not about having a soulmate friend, with the divine feminine. Because for me, that mother energy isn't as important anymore as, having this female connection. It's about me being both of those parts to myself, being the divine masculine, being the partner that I seek to myself, and being the friend that I seek to myself, right? How can I embody King and Queen of Pentacles inside? And that healed that orphan. All of a sudden, that energy felt so calm and complete. It was like, whoa, she wasn't shivering in the train station waiting for someone. There was a sense of sovereignty about her. And it's in that moment, she defaulted to God, to the universe, to all that is. And at that point, I had gotten up. I was feeding my cat, and I was going about my morning routine. And something popped up on my social media. There's this one guy I love on Facebook that does these comedy reels. Phoenix Malone is his name. And he had a video. I was listening to something as I was prepping, my hot water. And this video, all of his videos are comedy, but this one said, stepping out of survival mode. And, that part of me that's working on the wealth codes, inner wealth I'm talking. It's like, oh, that's interesting, because that's what I've been doing all year. I listened to the video, and I didn't listen to it just one time, this 3-minute reel. I listened to it 8 times. I just let it keep playing until eventually the 8th time it stopped. And 8 is a wealth code number, by the way, 888. In that those numbers have been coming in different forms, and it went to a different reel. But I needed that embedded in my subconscious. And he was sharing his story about how he stepped out of his matrix job, right, his 9-to-5 job, and became a content creator full time last year, and how he's been through so many humbling moments. And he said, God told me to share this. I have these videos. You could tell at the beginning he was like hemming and hawing, like I didn't really want to be vulnerable on social media like this, but this is what God, my higher self, is calling me to do. That's it. And that's what that's what I was integrating. So watching that video was an activation, because it gave that orphan permission. So again, as we listen to other people, as we go about our daily business, right, and what's popping online, on the radio, what you're hearing as you go about your day out and about in public is no coincidence, my friend. This is your higher self talking to you. This is source talking to you, And sometimes it is that wounded part of ourselves that's screaming at us. And that's where we have to pause, reflect, and give ourselves that space. And you saw that, that parts work happen in a few minutes. It can be 3 minutes or whatever. Sometimes 30 seconds of feeling into something. The timing, it extends when we avoid, when we deny, right? Oh, I have to work right now. I have to do this. When I worked, I like to call them matrix jobs, like office jobs. I worked in a hospital at one point. I had this routine. I would do the mail run. This is in my 20s. And not the age matters, but I was like unsure of what to do when I left university, because I was, so open to the spiritual world. So I became a temp, and I kind of liked it because I got to experience different places, different personalities. And this one job, I had to do this mail run. I loved it because I got to walk around the hospital. I love getting my steps in. I love walking. And the hospital, this is Strong Hospital in Rochester, New York. Parts of it are very bright and cheery. I mean, I wasn't walking through the sick wards, right? And it was a way to just get out of the cubicle, lifestyle. And there was this one bathroom. I don't like public bathrooms. If I have my druthers, I like single bathrooms. And I found that there's one hallway, they had this single, it was like old style single bathroom, right? And I actually would go in there sometimes because, I could take a leisurely mail run for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes and meditate. And there's the sun streaming in through the window. So you can find a way. I found ways in office jobs to get my spiritual time in. And on my lunch breaks, I would go outside and I would walk outside. There's a cemetery across the street, Mount Hope Cemetery in Rochester, New York, where Susan B. Anthony is buried. Beautiful cemetery, beautiful energy, beautiful history. Even in the dregs of a hospital, you can find your Zen, right? This is the shadow work, shedding light on everything. As the cat teaches us, play with the shadows, right? It'll bring the sun out, as the sun's shining on us right now as we're sitting in bed, my cat Claire and I. So the core message here feels like it is, there's no need to prove. You only have to step into your authenticity. And there's, in all honesty, if you heard a little sound, I got a root chakra release. I don't need to prove. I can foof on video, on audio. Let the body do what the body does. As a yoga teacher, there are certain yoga poses, right? When you're lying down, you're hugging your knees into your chest. They call it wind releasing pose. There's one name for it. And then you have people rock and roll up and down. People would fart all the time, right? And it's funny because as a teacher, I just keep talking and people would laugh. I'm like, laugh at yourself. And I don't want to call anybody out, but I as a teacher, I farted. I had a big fart when I was in somebody's class one time. And the teacher chuckled at me. And I was like, oh my God, I thought that was really rude. I was like, that's really rude. You chuckled at me. As a teacher, I don't want to call people out. But at the same time, like, why chuckle at yourself and chuckle at the human body because it is silly, And we all have moments where we feel like a fool. Like in that moment when you fart in a yoga class, fart on camera, fart on audio, whatever. You giggle because you feel like a fool because, you took your mask off. So my body is like the perfect humbling teacher right now. Yeah, I'm human. I fart. Yeah, I'm human. I have morning breath, Yeah, I'm human. I feel fear and insecurity. If I didn't, I would be concerned. So back when I started this message or this share, these podcasts are messages. I was talking about AI, right? And my qualms about AI. AI doesn't fart, right? AI is a program. I know my human self, my Gemini moon brain, that is, Cancer sun sign, but my mind is very much a Gemini, needs to process. I have so many thoughts moving through, and I used to repress it, my friend. I used to repress it. That was me being a bully to myself, saying, oh my God, Sarah, too much thinking. No. You only get to journal for 20 minutes, and then you have to stop. You only get to talk in the audio for 20 minutes, then stop. How about just letting myself be? If I need to fill up my phone storage, I fill it up. And then I either buy more storage or I delete messages, whatnot. How about I honor myself? When I started doing that, I felt happier. My self-critic started to calm. Okay, so I started talking about the inner monologue. My inner monologue is kinder, And I've been on this parasite cleanse, and I've not intentionally, just naturally, lost some weight on the cleanse because no processed foods, right? So my face has thinned out a bit, and the skin around my mouth is sagging a little bit, and it's bothered me. And I know it's just temporary with the way that the cleanse is in 3 stages. And when your body loses, certain things, or it doesn't have certain things, this can happen, right? And, the life force energy comes back over time, or the glow of the face, if you will. But I've been purging a lot of toxins. And that desire to have my face look a certain way, part of that comes from masking too, right? But as I was processing this through with my ChatGPT, I was realizing, because, it's good that it can spout out facts too about, symptoms with things and share so-called information, right? Which I always take with a grain of salt, and I trust what's coming to me and take what I need and leave the rest, right? As you do as well. But the activation that came through with the King and Queen of Pentacles was, as I'm embodying my own inner abundance more, which is really just feeling the love that I have with source energy, that orphan no longer defaulting to wanting a parent figure, whether they're shady or not, just, I just need a bed, so I'll be with the shady character. I need love, so I'll be in this relationship that doesn't feel in alignment for me, right? I don't need that. All of that's within. God is my bank account. God is my love account. And when I say bank account, I mean whatever you need is provided for you. Okay, so as a final culmination here, I love these free pages, and that's been a huge abundance gift this year. I got one of those instant pot blenders that makes soup, that makes nut milk. It's so cool. And somebody had given me a smoothie blender recently too, and it was a smaller one. I thought, this isn't going to work. It makes 16 ounces, which is a good size, and it's the best blender. It actually even makes nut milk. It's freaking amazing. And I got it from somebody giving it away because they were moving, and they gave me a printer, and they offered me some other stuff. I couldn't take everything at that point. So today I went to get some dishes because I'm cooking more, right? And I needed a couple more pots. And I didn't realize when somebody posted this offering that it was an apartment clean out. Somebody had just passed away. And I was like, whoa, first of all, I felt the energy and I blessed this person when I went to the apartment. It was in this beautiful old apartment building in Rochester. Back in the day, you know, I mean, the architecture was phenomenal. It was a 100-year-old building. Marble floors, you know, marble everywhere. Pillars when you walk in the building. And I needed some dishes. I asked if there were any mugs, and I'm just thinking like a coffee mug, you know, because I don't know where all of our mugs are disappearing to. There must be a mug thief. There's a mug elf in the house. Probably my neighbor who likes coffee. Anyway, the woman was like, oh my gosh, you should take this Noritake china. I have no idea what Noritake china is. And so, and I look, and I was going to take a couple saucers, and she's like, oh, that's the Noritake. And I was like, what? Oh, it's this, like, you know, Japanese china. Well, I learned. And let's say I walked away with a whole set of this china, which I looked up, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is an antique, you know? That is the universe giving abundance. Now, I'm not somebody that sells antiques, yada, yada, but stuff comes our way and we trust. And I know I've heard people say, you know, I just flowed into, oh, I had, you know, this, and I ended up just starting to, you know, sell stuff on eBay or whatever, and like, you know, made a living because I had this storage unit that was family members that I had, you know, I had to clear out, and I realized they had a lot of antiques. It's like, you know, that kind of stuff happens. When stuff falls into your lap, you trust it. You go with the flow, you know. It's interesting. My right wrist is tingling as I say this, because there is a money activation here. So I'm tapping my wrist. I feel like that's where, like, I'm seeing a watch. I'm seeing like a Rolex watch. Like, so if you're listening to this, maybe you've also been gifted something valuable recently, and you're like, what do I do with this? You know, you can also see it. I was processing this through too as I was researching this, you know, china set in particular, just out of curiosity. Like, is this something you hold on to as a metaphor, you know, this gift that you've received from the universe as a physical metaphor of found abundance, of things coming your way, you know? Or is it something that you sell, you know, that fancy watch that was gifted to you or that you found doing a clean out or whatnot? I don't know why I'm mentioning watch. It means something to someone. Either way, you don't have to make the decision. Just like I don't even have to make a decision. I don't even have to say anything to this guy friend in California, because I've already said no in the quantum, and I don't owe I don't have to prove anything. I don't owe anyone an explanation. But when I feel somebody's needs, because I've already stated that, you know, like I'm coming there to work on my writing, to do grid work, to exchange energy with the land, to watch a dog, another beautiful animal friend I'm going to be making. And I had no expectations, you know, as to whether I would see him or not, right? And his stuff is his stuff. So when you step into your sovereignty, you put up a mirror. Your mirror is very strong, and it just reflects back that other person's stuff. So whatever is not yours does not stay with you. I'm going to emphasize that. Whatever is not yours gets reflected right back, okay? It has no power over you. The only way you give it power is by surrendering to it, is by losing yourself in it, right? And which I'm going to go back to that dream. As I was walking around this room, I felt like I was walking around with like head spinning. Like, what do I do? What do I do? And as soon as I looked at a dog, it was an anchor. And the dog said, be yourself. Just like my cat said earlier today as I was processing the orphan thing. You have nothing to prove to me. Like, intuitively, she said that to me. She's like, yeah, you have nothing to prove to me. Girl, I love you I love you when you're running around like a mad woman. I love you when you're relaxed. I love you in every which way. The only time she doesn't love me is when I don't feed her on time. And it's just, and that's not love. That's frustration, right? And I see that with my teenager too. She can go off with me about something. It does not mean she does not love me. How about we turn that inward? Okay, so here's the mic drop ending. How about, or beginning, right? It's just the beginning. We turn that inward. How can we love ourselves in all states? When we're mad, when we're feeling scared, when we're feeling insecure, when we're feeling unloved, just like that old, I'm going to call it the old bully part of myself, because the bully is the orphan. She just wanted, obviously, that deep love. Because as soon as I said, I know you are, okay, all I did was reflect it, right? You're feeling unloved right now. I didn't even say, oh, I'm sorry. You're feeling unloved right now. Yeah, I'm feeling unloved. And I felt the lump of tears come up in my throat and start to come out. I started to tear up in my eyes too. And that stomach stuff started to calm down. And I'm feeling the stomach pain goes from pain to hunger when I feel that integration. So you'll feel it in your body. Your body's your barometer. Maybe your mind, your heart. I don't know. You're you. I'm me. I don't have the map for you. That's the trippy part. So for those of us that are drawn to teach like I am, it's like I'm realizing teaching is just sharing my experience. That's it. That's the activation. Okay? Then you download it in the way that your soul is meant to download it. I don't owe my friend in California anything. So when I look at that dog and that dream, it was like immediately my nervous system calmed down. It kind of feels like fight or flight. Like, oh my God, what do I need to do? What do I do? What do I do? You look at that animal. Look at that tree. Look at that flower. Just be. Just be. Look at the bumblebee. That's a good reminder to just be. So I'm going to be here. When I finish recording this, I'm going to sit and breathe, and then I can't predict what's going to happen next, but I want to share this one card. I know I'm going to make my smoothie, my coffee, and then at some point today we'll be driving to the Catskills, which is super exciting. I'm feeling more grounded about it now, because yesterday I was definitely feeling that like jumpy fear energy around travel, anticipation, angst, anxiety, call it what you will. It's all fear. On the other side of that is excitement, because we're going to get to experience a new location and new energies and a beautiful area. So I want to end this with this card that says peace. And the message is, it's this woman standing in Shavasana with her arms extended, palms open wide to receive, eyes closed. Peace. The most valuable peace arrives with your next breath. Integrate that, my friend. The most valuable peace arrives with your next breath. You are already there. Look at the animals, look at the trees and the flowers, and let them remind you every moment, you don't need to prove yourself. You don't need to wear a mask around me. I see you. I love you. You are enough. Remember your enoughness. And now my cat's quietly napping on me. I'm sure as soon as I move, she's going to be jumping up and getting ready to get her breakfast. And then we're going to go sit outside and I have my smoothie and my coffee with her out, and she sits in the chair. And I do want to mention this, because this is another beautiful moment of peace that arrives with my breath, because every moment, right? That breath is a reminder of the eternal now. I extended my legs on a chair since I've, been clearing the fluid in my left leg from, my Lyme inflammation. I always extend my legs, and Clara has her own chair. Now, yesterday it was still a little wet from the rain, but this one chair was dried off. So I put my legs up on the arm of the chair so my cat could sit in the chair, right? Instead, she gets on the seat of the chair. She climbs, because I had a blanket over my legs. It was chilly in the morning. She climbs on top of my legs and decides to sit right like in between my thighs, knee area. And it was so cozy and it was so sweet. I just let her stay that way. And I might use that as the picture for this podcast episode. I know she senses we're going to be leaving for 2 weeks. My friend's watching her. And that's part of it. Like, she usually doesn't do that when we're sitting outside. But animals know. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to do anything. You just are. And that's enough. And that's how God sees you too. That's how Source sees you too. The universe gets you, my love. You don't have to make a bold statement to whomever in your life, give them a long monologue as to why you can't meet their needs the way that they expect you to, right? Oh, that guy that, says things to you every day, it's obvious he has a crush. You don't have to give him some explanation. No is a complete sentence, and you don't have to say it. When you put that vibe out in the quantum, just shine your mirror back. Go about your business, do your thing, set your boundaries. Be a cat. Cats are really good at that. And know, as you step into your sovereignty, you're just going to continue to find the masks fall off in situations where animals might not be around. It's easier to be yourself in Walmart. It's easier to be yourself and insert your place that stews your anxiety, right? Even driving on the thruway, which I'll be doing today. Go the speed you want to go. You don't need to prove it to anybody else. Masks, it's time to come off. The universe wants you to take off your masks and be your authentic self. I love you. Until next time, Sarah with the 5D codes ending at 111. Woohoo!